I deserve better than you. She cheated with him, my friends agreed. But karma made them all regret it. I don't even know why I'm writing this. Maybe because if I don't get it out somewhere, it will eat me alive. Yesterday, my girlfriend of almost 4 years, Emily, looked me in the eye and said she had cheated. Then she told me she needed a real man. She said she wanted someone ambitious, not someone stuck in the same place. It hit me hard. I am 34. I thought age meant something. I thought it meant experience and calm in a slow-building life. I did not expect to be treated like I was standing still. The people I trusted, the ones who came to our house for barbecues and game nights, suddenly acted like I was the problem. That hurt more than the cheating. I should have seen some of it coming. For months, Emily had been changing small things. New clothes she said were on sale. Late-night workouts she never cared about before. Her phone face down when we were together. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. We are taught trust is the backbone of a relationship, so I chose to trust her. That choice felt foolish now. 2 weeks before this, we were at the local bar with friends. I noticed she kept looking at a guy named Ryan. He worked with her. At first it was small, laughs, leaning in. But then I kept feeling a wrongness I could not ignore. She laughed at his jokes in a new way. When he touched her arm, something inside me tightened. I asked her about it the next day. She told me I was being insecure and to stop making things weird. I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. Maybe that was a mistake. Last Tuesday I came home early because a meeting was canceled. I wanted to surprise her with dinner. She was not expecting me. I opened the door and smelled perfume I didn't know. She stood in the kitchen with her hair done and a dress I had not seen. She looked like she was getting ready to go out, not stay in. "Where are you going?" I asked. Her face shifted for a moment, and she quickly put on a smile. "Girls' night," she said. It sounded practiced. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I did not look on purpose, but the screen lit up and the name Ryan was there with a message. "Can't wait to see you tonight." I stood there and felt my chest go empty. When she realized I had seen it, she did not reach for me. She locked the phone and let out a long breath. Then she said something that cut deeper. I needed a real man. Someone like Ryan. She added that our friends agreed. She said they had told her I was too comfortable, not going anywhere. I felt like I was watching a scene where every line was written to make me the villain. I did not yell. I did not beg. I went into our bedroom, packed a duffel with what I needed, and grabbed my keys. I needed the motion of leaving more than answers. In the doorway I paused and said, "Enjoy your real man, Emily. Keep the apartment." Then I left. As I walked away, I did not feel dramatic anger or collapse into grief. There was a clear calm, not relief, but a fresh quiet. I did not know then how far I would have to go to find myself again. I could not stay. I drove until the city lights blurred quietly. When I closed the door behind me that night, I thought it was finished. I thought I had walked out of her life for good, carrying nothing but a bag and a strange kind of silence. But the story didn't stop there. It rarely does when people like Emily are involved. Her smile had faded when I caught the message from Ryan, but she didn't look ashamed. She didn't even try to hide anymore. After locking her phone, she just leaned on the counter and said, "Guess there's no point in pretending." Then she repeated it, like she wanted to make sure I heard it loud and clear. I needed a real man. Someone like Ryan. She said it with such certainty, like it was some final truth she'd been waiting to deliver. But then she pushed it further. She added, "Even your friends agree. They told me you're too comfortable, too lazy. Ryan's going somewhere. You're not." That was the part that stung more than anything. The cheating, I could almost chalk up to selfishness, but dragging my friends into it, claiming they'd sided with her, that broke something deeper. I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat. My hands were steady, even though inside I felt like the floor had fallen out from under me. I typed one line. "You all knew?" The replies came quickly. Tom, a guy I had known for almost 10 years, wrote, "Man, don't take it personal. Emily deserves better. We just didn't know how to tell you." Then Jess chimed in. "We weren't trying to hurt you. We thought maybe this would wake you up." Wake me up? I stared at the screen, rereading their words over and over, trying to process the idea that the people who had been in my home, who had laughed with me, shared meals, played endless rounds of games on my console, those people thought this betrayal was a good thing. Emily watched me read their messages, her arms crossed, eyes fixed on me like she was waiting to see how I'd react. She looked almost proud. It was surreal, standing there with the truth laid out so cleanly. The person I loved telling me to my face that I wasn't enough, and the people I trusted confirming it behind my back. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because of how absurd it all sounded. All at once, it felt like there was nothing left to fight for in that room. No argument, no explaining could change what had already happened. That night was the first time I understood that sometimes the people closest to you aren't your safety net. They're the ones holding the scissors. And as I looked around that apartment we had made together, I realized it was no longer mine. It was hers. She had filled it with lies, and they had backed her up. So I decided right then that I wouldn't give her the fight she wanted. I wouldn't shout, or plead, or demand she explain herself. I'd walk. And I did. But I didn't yet understand that leaving the apartment wasn't the end of this story. It was only the start of watching it all unravel. When I think back to that night, I realize Emily wanted a scene. She wanted yelling, broken dishes, maybe me begging her to stay so she could feel powerful. But I didn't give her any of that. After reading my so-called friend's messages, I put my phone in my pocket and looked at Emily. I expected, maybe foolishly, to see some hint of guilt, anything human. But she looked the same as she had when she first admitted it. Almost like this was her victory lap. "You're pathetic," she said flatly, as if she'd been rehearsing the line. "Always chasing dreams that never go anywhere. Ryan makes 6 figures. He can give me a real life. You can't." It wasn't the money that stung. It was how easily she dismissed everything we had built together. For years, reduced to a paycheck comparison. I didn't say a word. I turned and went to our bedroom. I grabbed the old duffel bag from the closet and threw in a few clothes, my toothbrush, and the small stack of notebooks I'd kept on the nightstand. The whole time, I could hear her moving around the kitchen, sighing loud enough so I'd know she was annoyed that I wasn't engaging. When I stepped back into the living room with the bag slung over my shoulder, she was waiting. Her arms were crossed again, her face set like she was bracing herself for me to explode. Instead, I stopped in the doorway and said, calm as anything, "Enjoy your real man, Emily. Keep the apartment." That was it. No dramatic speech. No door slam. I just walked out. The night air hit me in the face as I stepped outside. It felt strangely cool, like the first breath after being underwater too long. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry in that moment. I felt empty, but in a clean way, like something had been scraped out of me that didn't belong there anymore. I got into my car and drove. No destination, no plan. Just roads stretching out in front of me and the dull hum of tires on asphalt. My phone buzzed a few times in the cup holder, but I didn't check it. I didn't want to hear from anyone. By the time I finally pulled into a cheap roadside motel, the sun was starting to rise. I paid cash for a room, dropped my bag on the floor, and sat on the bed. For the first time in years, there was no one else's voice filling my head. No Emily, no friends, no group chat, just silence. I thought leaving would feel like the end of something. But sitting there in that room, I realized it was the beginning of something else. The truth, though, is that people like Emily don't just let go when you walk away. They don't fade quietly into the background. They cling to their version of the story, and they want everyone else to believe it. And I had no idea, in that first quiet morning, how quickly she was about to rewrite the story to make herself the victim, and how fast my so-called friends would rush to support her version. But in that moment, as I closed my eyes on the motel bed, I held on to one thing. At least I hadn't given her the fight she wanted. I had walked away, and that, I thought, was my victory. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. I hadn't touched it since I walked out of the apartment. The screen lit up with notifications, more than I had ever seen in my life. 32 missed calls, 19 voicemails, over 50 unread texts. Half were from Emily, the other half from my so-called friends. For a second, I almost laughed. The same people who told me she deserved better were now flooding me with explanations. I didn't bother listening to the voicemails or opening the texts. I just put the phone down on the motel nightstand and stared at the ceiling. The thing is, leaving hadn't broken me like they probably expected. If anything, it freed me. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to someone who only saw me as a backup plan. I wasn't sitting at home waiting for her approval. Still, I knew Emily well enough to realize this wasn't over. People like her don't just stop when you walk away. They need to control the story. And sure enough, by that evening, I found out exactly what she had done. Curiosity got the better of me, so I logged onto social media. I shouldn't have, but I did. Her Instagram was a full-blown circus. There she was, posting pictures with captions that twisted everything upside down. According to her, I was the toxic one. She claimed I was controlling, insecure, emotionally manipulative. She even threw in the line that I had isolated her from her friends and made her feel worthless. And the same friends who backed her up before, they were in the comments, cheering her on, writing things like, "So proud of you for choosing yourself," and "You deserve better, girl." I sat in that crappy motel room, scrolling through lie after lie, watching strangers send her support as if she were some kind of survivor of a 4-year prison sentence. It was surreal. She had posted a long story, too, saying, "No woman should feel trapped in a relationship where she isn't valued. I wasted 4 years with someone who only dragged me down. Now I'm finally free." The replies flooded in, hundreds of likes, dozens of supportive comments. Strangers calling her strong, brave, inspiring. People I didn't even know were applauding her for leaving me. And there I was, eating a gas station sandwich in a dim motel room, reading all of it. I should have been furious. I should have thrown the phone across the room or started typing out a defense. But instead, I felt oddly calm. Because deep down, I knew something she didn't. I knew the truth always finds a way out. People like Emily always push too far, always overplay their hand. And sure enough, that's exactly what would happen. At the time, though, I just closed the app and sat in silence. Let her write her story. Let her play the victim. I wasn't going to fight her on her stage. I thought to myself, if she really believes this will last, she's in for a surprise. Because if life had taught me anything by then, it was that lies don't hold forever. They crack. They leak. And eventually, they bury the people who told them. I didn't know it yet, but the cracks in her story were already forming. And when they split open, the same people who cheered her on would turn their backs just as fast. Emily didn't stop with one post. By the next day, her feed was filled with updates, each one more dramatic than the last. One picture stood out, a teary-eyed selfie, mascara running slightly down her face. The caption read, "After 4 years of lies and being held back, I finally chose myself. No woman should ever settle for less than she deserves." Hundreds of likes rolled in. Dozens of comments called her strong, brave, and an inspiration. People I didn't even know were praising her, as if they'd been there through our relationship and knew the truth. Meanwhile, I was sitting on the edge of a motel bed, eating a cold sandwich from the gas station down the street, staring at my phone as strangers decided I was some kind of monster. I should have been angry. Honestly, I expected to be. But instead, a strange calm settled in. Because watching her play victim told me something important. She was overplaying her hand. And people like her always did. 2 days later, I got a message that changed everything. It was from Lena, one of Emily's closest friends. The last person I expected to hear from. She asked if we could meet. She said it was important. I agreed, though I was skeptical. We met at a coffee shop across town, one I knew Emily never went to. Lena showed up looking nervous, glancing over her shoulder as she slid into the booth across from me. The first thing she said was, "You need to know something." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Emily's been planning this for months. Ryan isn't the first guy. He's just the latest." I blinked. "What do you mean, the latest?" "She cheated on you last year too," Lena said. "With another coworker. Same pattern, new clothes, late nights, secret texts. I wanted to tell you then, but she told everyone you wouldn't believe it. She said you were desperate, that you'd cling to her no matter what." The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. Emily had built a whole version of me in her head. The boyfriend too weak to leave. The guy who'd forgive anything because he couldn't do better. I leaned back in the booth, my chest heavy. "So everyone knew?" Lena shook her head. "Not everyone, but enough people suspected. I'm telling you because I can't watch her destroy you like this. She thinks she's invincible right now, but she's not." She hesitated, then dropped the real bombshell. "And there's more. Ryan's married." For a second, I thought I misheard her. "Married?" Lena nodded quickly. "His wife doesn't know yet, but she's suspicious. Emily thinks she's finally hit the jackpot with him, but she has no idea what's coming." I sat there in silence, my coffee untouched, trying to process what she'd just told me. Emily had blown up a 4-year relationship for a man who already had a wife. Lena's eyes softened. "If you're smart, you'll stay quiet. Let the truth come out on its own. She's setting herself up for a fall. You don't need to do a thing." When I walked out of that coffee shop, the air felt lighter than it had in weeks. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about proving myself or defending my name. I was thinking about patience. Because patience, I realized, would do more damage than anything I could say or do. And Emily had no idea how close her perfect little story was to cracking wide open. When Lena told me Ryan was married, I thought it couldn't get any worse than that. But she was right. Emily had been walking into a trap she didn't even know was there. For the first time since leaving, I felt like I could breathe. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about waiting. And waiting paid off. About a week later, the cracks began to show. Screenshots started leaking into group chats, screenshots I had nothing to do with. They came from inside Emily's own circle. I don't know who sent them out. Maybe Lena, maybe someone else who'd finally had enough. The messages were brutal. Emily bragging about how she had trained Ryan to start pulling away from his wife. Her mocking his kids, saying they were clingy. And one that made my stomach turn, her laughing about how I probably cried like a baby when I walked out. Those screenshots spread fast. At first it was just whispers, then they hit social media. And then Ryan's wife saw them. She didn't hold back. She posted everything, screenshots, timelines, even pictures of Ryan and Emily together. She exposed them for exactly what they were, liars who thought they were clever. One of her posts blew up on our city's local subreddit. Thousands of views, hundreds of comments. People dragging Ryan for cheating on his wife, dragging Emily for breaking up a family, and laughing at how the golden couple had turned into a public joke overnight. And the friends who had taken her side? They scrambled. Tom texted me first. "Man, I'm sorry. I didn't know she'd go this far. I should have had your back." Jess sent a long message, almost a full essay, about how she never fully believed Emily but didn't know what else to do. I didn't respond to either of them. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I finally understood something. Their loyalty had always been conditional. They were fine being around me as long as it was easy, but the second Emily made them feel like siding with her was the right move, they switched. People like that aren't friends. They're weather vanes, blowing whichever way looks safest. As for Emily and Ryan, their power couple image collapsed in real time. Ryan's wife kicked him out. She filed for divorce, and from what I heard, she was planning to take him for everything she could. And Emily, well, she wasn't standing next to a successful man anymore. She was standing next to a guy whose life had just gone up in flames. I didn't celebrate. I didn't send "I told you so" texts. I didn't need to. Watching it unfold was enough. But what surprised me most was how quiet I felt inside. A year ago, maybe even a few months ago, I would have wanted revenge. I would have wanted to clear my name and prove to everyone that I wasn't the villain she made me out to be. But sitting in that motel room, scrolling through post after post tearing her down, I realized I didn't need to prove anything. Emily had dug her own grave, and Ryan had jumped in with her. And me? For the first time in a long while, I was outside of it all, watching from a distance. Free. But just when I thought I'd seen the last of her, Emily found a way back into my life. Her name lit up my screen again. And again. And again. Dozens of calls. Dozens of voicemails. Only this time, her tone had changed. The first voicemail from Emily started the way I expected. Defensive, annoyed, still trying to sound like she was in control. "You don't understand," she said, her voice sharp. "Ryan lied to me. He told me things were different. You don't get it." By the third voicemail, the edge in her tone was gone. Instead, she sounded tired. I was confused. "I made mistakes. But you're the only one who ever really cared about me. Please, can we just talk?" I didn't answer. The calls kept coming. Morning, night, in between. Each one a little more desperate than the last. "You don't know how much I've lost," she said in one. "You're the only person who ever really loved me." But I didn't need to hear more. I didn't need her explanations or excuses, because by then, the story had already played itself out. Ryan was out of his house, his wife was filing for divorce, and Emily's reputation had crumbled. The friends who once praised her were now distancing themselves, quietly unfollowing her, pretending they hadn't cheered her on in the first place. I never replied to her messages, not out of bitterness, but because I'd finally realized there was nothing left to say. She had chosen her path, and now she was walking it alone. One evening, I sat in the small lobby of the motel I'd been calling home. Pete, the old man who ran the place, handed me a beer without a word and settled into the chair across from me. After a while, he looked at me and said, "You look lighter, son. Like you dropped some weight you didn't need." And he was right. Emily lost Ryan. She lost her reputation. She lost the story she thought she could control. My so-called friends revealed themselves for who they really were. People who had never been on my side to begin with. And me? I may still be living out of a duffel bag, eating gas station food, and figuring out what comes next, but I've never felt freer. Because the truth is, sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to fight back, or to prove everyone wrong, or to win the argument. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing at all. To pick up your keys, walk out the door, and let the world see them burn without you lifting a hand. That's what I did, and I don't regret it. So here I am, telling this story, not because I want pity or because I need people to take my side, but because maybe someone out there has been through the same thing, feeling like they were blindsided, betrayed, abandoned by both a partner and friends. If that's you, I want you to know, walking away isn't weakness. It's freedom. Emily's calls eventually stopped. The silence that followed wasn't sad, it was peace. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.